Oh my God, I'm so excited. Holy God. Okay, first off, I have such a brilliant woman with me. I met her a few years ago. She has the best name ever. Her name is Ashley, obviously. And just kidding, just kidding. But I met her a few years ago through one of my mentors, Tracy Litt, and then we went to her event called Powerhouse. And then now I got to actually really deepen my connection with her through one of my other mentors named Gabby at her Super Vibe Live retreat. And I'm like, oh yeah, everything happens for a reason, right? Like, of course we would connect now, especially with some of the topics that we're going to dive into. So first, welcome, Ashley. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like a schoolgirl. I'm so giddy. I'm like jumping out of my seat. So
Me
happy.
too. I'm wondering first, I would love for you to share where you are in the world and then also what it is that you do. How do you help people? What brings you to life?
Oh, I love that. What brings you to life? Oh, how do I answer that? Okay, so I guess what do I do? I am a content marketing strategist. Just a little back thing. I went to school for marketing, worked in corporate marketing, was actually very high in corporate marketing. I ran a team of like 70-ish people on a marketing team and for a $4 billion company. And then I was like, this is for the birds. I'm getting paid absolutely nothing. It felt like I don't I don't like authority. I don't like being told what to do. I want creative freedom, which is hilarious. I did not know about astrology back then, but like obviously looking back, I'm like, oh, Aquarius moon coming out so hard. But yeah, I basically said goodbye to this and I ended up taking a marketing job for a property management company, which was okay. It was fine. But I just kind of wanted to do something different. And then randomly, this girl came into the office that I was at, one of the properties, and she was like, hey, I need help faxing this. And I'm like, I have no idea how to work this fax machine, but we'll figure it out together. And long story short, she was faxing a paper to like a dental assisting program. And she was telling me all about it. And I was like, hey, you know what? I actually am obsessed with teeth. So weird. I know, so weird, but I never got to have braces growing up. So I really wanted braces. And I was like, man, I just love teeth. I think and the smile, mouth, voice, like it just all aligns. But she's like, oh, you should look into it. And then long story short, I went to school, became a dental assistant, got a job right out of, yeah, I don't know if you knew that or not. Yeah, I used to be a dental assistant. And I worked in an orthodontist office, which was so cool. And then basically I was there for about a year and a half. And my boss was just talking to me about something. And I was like, oh, yeah. And we started talking marketing. He's like, wow, you're really good. I was like, I have a degree in marketing. And it's like, I worked in corporate marketing before I came to work here. He's like, oh, do you want to do all the marketing for us? And I'm like, sure. And so then I started doing the marketing there, which I also just did not like. I was like, this feels really weird. I just don't love it here because then I didn't have creative freedom again. So I said, you know what? I want to do something creative. And I ended up starting a blog on a whim. It was called The Bell in the Veil. The Bell in a Veil. I was like, I grew up in North Carolina, very Southern. My wedding was very Southern. I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a whole blog about weddings and it's going to call The Bell in the Veil. Within 1 year, that blog replaced my 9 to 5 income. Insanity. Yes, through SEO, partnerships, like going around my area and connecting with other wedding vendors, referring, all those good things. I ended up actually getting featured in a magazine. It was insane. It was so much fun. So I was about 6 months pregnant, 7 months pregnant at the time. And I came home from my dental assisting job. I was doing blogging and dental assisting. And I told my husband, hey, I think I want to quit dental assisting and take my blog full time. What do you think? And he's like, sure, why not? Okay. Thank God for him. Literally my biggest cheerleader. So yeah, and then I started doing the blogging and then I had people reaching out like, how in the world are you doing this? I'm like, marketing, SEO. No one knows what this is and no one really knew what it was. So I ended up having someone actually hire me. They came to me and I met them at a conference. Actually, they were speaking at a conference and our mutual friend was the one who was doing the conference. And her name was also Ashley, which is hilarious. So very first client was Ashley. And she was a life coach, motivational speaker. She was a 7-figure entrepreneur, but did nothing online. Everything was offline. I don't know how she did it. It was insane, but it was so cool. So she was like, I want to go online. Can you help me bring my business basically online? And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. And so I worked with her for a while. And then all of a sudden she's like, you need to be coaching. This is what you need to be doing. You need to be creating, helping people create content and do this marketing, all this stuff. So then she just started referring me all over the place. And then my business just blog kind of went to the wayside and business just kind of whoop. And I'm still doing it and I love it. And just like you, Ashley, went to do NLP, and hypnotherapy. I really didn't want to do the hypnotherapy. I really wanted the NLP, but the hypnotherapy was part of it. And I was like, hey, this is also really, really cool. But yeah, and then maybe within like the last 2 years, I got really interested in astrology and human design. And I did it a lot with my clients behind the scenes because you can see in your chart your voice vibe, like basically what are the topics you can talk about that will immediately attract people to you? What is your essence? You can even see your ideal client in it. You can see days that are better for marketing and not marketing. It's really, really cool. So I started using that as a tool in the back end. And then all of my clients were like, this is amazing. Please, please, please start talking about this. And so then I started talking about it. And now I'm known as the content marketing strategist who also incorporates astrology. So yes, very big thing into what I do. And that's where I'm at now. And what lights my soul on fire. I don't think that's exactly what you said, but if you were to answer what lights my soul on fire, it really is giving people, or not, I don't even want to say giving because they don't need to be given permission. It's helping them find permission. It's not being afraid to give themselves permission to really use their voice and really show up as their wild, goofy, weird, out of the box, wild, wild self, unapologetically. That is absolutely like what I know I am here on this earth to help people do. And that's what lights me up. Okay.
Oh, obsessed. I just
That was
you
a lot. Sorry.
know, you took us on a journey and I was like, this is amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes. Mm.
Oh my gosh. Okay. There's so much there, but I'm wondering, can you let people know what your big three are in
Oh,
astrology and
yes.
then what your human design is?
Yes. So I am a Capricorn sun, proud Capricorn sun. I was actually born on the very last day of the year and of the 80s. So is that not amazing? I actually just say I'm a walking New Year's Eve party. Like it needs to be a party at all times. If I could wear sequins and have disco balls around me at all time, I totally would. But yes, Capricorn sun, I am an Aquarius moon. It is in my fifth house, actually right on top of my north node as well, which is also really, really powerful. Yes. And then I am a Libra rising. And my
Mm,
Venus is also conjunct my north node and my moon, and Venus is my chart ruler. So everything in that fifth house of creativity, fun, childlike play, weirdo to the max energy.
yes. Yes.
And yes, and human design. I am a 1-3 emotional generator.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I just like for
Yes.
people who speak the language of this, it's helpful to know, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
one of my questions for you, because I don't know a lot about astrology, but I've been learning just, here and there. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, is your rising sign the one that people experience you as, or like how you are meant to move through the world, or what is that?
Mm. So your rising sign is kind of like who you kind of view yourself as. It is your personality. I love being a Capricorn, but a Capricorn is kind of where you shine, and the house that your sun is in is kind of the situations in which you shine in. So my Capricorn is actually in the third house of communication. I'm literally a messaging and content strategist. So I shine in the area of communications. It's also the area of communities, right? And while I resonate a lot with that Capricorn sun, it's almost your sun is kind of almost your ego side, that not ego in a bad way, but it's almost your ego side. It's more like, oh, this is who I am and how other people sometimes see me. It's almost like the mask that you wear, I want to say, versus your rising sign is really your personality. I bet if you knew your rising sign and I read you your rising sign, you would probably relate a lot more to your rising sign because it is kind of who you are behind closed doors. It's really who you see yourself as. Then your moon sign, just to do your big three, your moon sign is your emotions. It's what you want emotionally. It's how you feel emotionally fulfilled and also how you experience emotions of others. But how other people view you, what you said, is usually your 10th house. And your 10th house is your MC. And that is the highest part of your chart. And it rules reputation and outward appearance. It can also rule career. It's how other people see you. That's why when you are talking to someone, maybe the first question is, what do you do? Because they
Mm,
mostly see what you're doing. Your 10th house is usually how other people see you. It's your outward reputation. My MC is Cancer. And so if you, Ashley, did not know me and you just experienced me online, you just followed me online, you would see me as kind of very motherly, a little bit more of, It's the crab. So sometimes it is the motherly energy and the nurturing energy. I talk a lot about emotions. However, it sometimes can feel a little bit crabby, right? Like when you think of a crab, it's almost the tough love mother sometimes, especially with it being there. And my Jupiter is also conjunct my MC in the ninth house of higher religion, higher education, spirituality. So you can also see a little bit of that since it's conjunct that coming in. So you see me as a spiritual type of mother, but not a woo-woo spiritual. I've had people tell me when I talk about astrology, I love how you talk about it because it actually feels very strategical. It doesn't feel like this ethereal thing that I can't actually capture. And I'm like, yes, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing my Cancer MC with that Jupiter conjunct
Mm.
right there up to it with it being in the ninth house.
So you
So
ground
yeah.
the esoteric.
Yes, 100%. And my IC, which is the sign directly across from your MC, is Capricorn. So that is my sun. And I also have a stellium there. All my other planets are basically in Capricorn. So yes, very grounding, very foundational, very methodical type of behind the scenes. Like when you get to know me, you get to see a little bit more of the Capricorn. It's the going deeper. And then, so if you saw me online, you would see me as Cancer. Then let's say we meet in person and we're just having kind of surface level talk, you see the Libra. Libra is the justice, it's duality. It's very much the why. I will always ask why. I got in trouble a lot with that when I was younger. My dad actually used to say, I asked why, he would say, but to make little kids ask questions. He would say that all the time to me. But yeah, it's a why. And it's also kind of like fighting for the underdog. I love to really look at both sides of things. It rules the judicial system. The negative side of Libra could be indecisive, which I totally am sometimes. But yeah, you would experience Libra. But then once you really got to know me, we spent a couple days together, or you started to work with me, you would see a lot more of that Capricorn. You would see a lot more of that Capricorn sign because that is like you're safe. And the moon as well. You'll see a lot more of that moon because I feel emotionally invested in you. I feel emotionally safe with you. So I can really start to show my emotions to you.
This is like while you're talking, I'm having this breakthrough. So thank you for that because,
Yeah.
like, for context, I am a Scorpio sun, a Virgo moon, and an Aquarius rising. And I have always had some shit around the Virgo moon because I am constantly processing and thinking. And like, it's so easy for me to be in my brain. But as you're talking about the emotional aspects, I'm realizing part of my spiritual awakening, or this remembering journey is the more that I can tap into the wisdom of the emotions and allow those to come through
Mm-hmm.
me first to ground them, then the information of truth comes so much more quickly to my brain. So it's not like this, oh, it's a thought process and then a feeling. It's like the feeling has the wisdom in it. And it's
Yes.
not me judging the Virgo moon anymore because I'm like, I'm so heady, blah, blah, blah. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And the Virgo moon is so beautiful because it's an earth sign. So it literally means you need to be grounded in your emotions. And I also can bet that you might seem emotional from the outside. Like people might experience your emotions, but it might be like the emotion of encouragement or inspiration, right? Which I totally see that, right? You're snapping your fingers and all of that, very encouraging. But people don't really get super close to you unless you feel super trustworthy for them and where you feel you can share your very unique, out of the box, weird type thoughts because you're that Aquarius rising,
Mhm.
right? You won't feel safe to be able to really, really show your emotions until you feel safe to be able to talk about your esoteric, weird, out of the box thoughts.
You nailed it. I like
Yes.
that's why I was so excited to connect with you more deeply because we had just been these like two passing ships. And then finally I was like, oh my God. Because I felt safe enough with you because you brought the astrology forward and we're talking about it. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, we can play in
Guess
this
what?
box. Yes.
Aquarius rules astrology.
Oh,
And you're an Aquarius rising. So you
mm,
are very in tune with the cosmos. Right? Like you actually see yourself as a little weird and love the esoteric, out of the box type thinking, which is very, very Aquarius. So,
oh, thank
and
you
it's
for that.
astrology is ruled by Aquarius.
I've had I've had a number of people who have read my charts who will message me from the things that I'm sharing and they're like, "This is your Aquarius rising. Oh, you're so in
Yeah.
alignment." And I'm like, Thank you so much. I had no idea. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Question for you. What would
Yeah.
you say to people who are like astrology is bullshit, like it's not real?
I have a great response for that. I used to think the exact same thing. Like, no, seriously, if someone came up and started talking to me about astrology and human design, I thought it was the devil's work. Hello, Christian trauma. I used to think it was the devil's work. I also used to be like, you can make anything fit. You can make anything fit. Like, this is super weird. But I will say this, I look at astrology from a completely different lens than a lot of people. I look at it as just patterns, just like a Myers Briggs test or your Enneagram. Certain signs and certain aspects and certain houses are just patterns that people have studied for thousands and thousands of years. And so who am I to discredit all of these work of all of these people where it's all come down to the same conclusion and they're all like, yeah, this is exactly what this means and this means and this means. I literally just look at it as a energetic tool. It's actually funny because they say that Aquariuses are, it rules astrology, but they're the ones that usually tend to think that astrology is bullshit until they have an astrologer read their chart and then they're like, wait a minute, this actually makes so much sense. And I'll tell you what happened for me. I had this guy, it was when I started getting into more of the mindset world. And I'll say that when I joined I'm doing quotations, the mindset world, I looked at it from a very strategical standpoint. I have all of that earth energy, all that Capricorn energy, and Aquarius is air. I mean, Libra, sorry, Libra is the air. So it's like all up in my head thinking, and I have an open head, open ajna, open throat. So like always up in here, right? So I looked at mindset from a very strategical standpoint. I had no idea what it was like, what it even meant to feel your emotions in your body. Absolutely not. When they were like, feel it in your body, I'm like, what the hell is they talking about? I don't know what they're talking about. But I started really going down this mindset journey because I'll tell you, my intentions were totally not great when I first started doing it. And I think this will relate to a lot of people. My intention was if I worked on my mindset, then I'll make money in my business because everybody's telling you that when you are, in highest alignment, all the money just falls from the sky, right? And I think a lot of people approach it that way. And I totally 100% did approach it that way. And so I started getting into the mindset world and I had someone basically asked me what my human design was. It was on an interview, a podcast interview. And I was like, what is this? This is weird. And so I went to look it up and it was like, oh yeah, this Rahu guy or whatever channeled it at the top of a mountain and these like demons or whatever were speaking to him. And I'm like, this is witchcraft. I don't want to do this. This is weird, right? But again, I totally weird upbringing, all that stuff. But I said, something in me just said, you know what? Let's test her. Let's actually, this is so terrible. This is so terrible. But I was like, let me test her. I'm going to give it to her. And then everything she says, I'm gonna be like, yeah, no, that's not true. I'm going to challenge her. We get on this, we get on this podcast interview and everything homegirl said was like spot on the money. And I was like, I can't even argue with this. And then she pulled my astrology because she had my birth information. And she asked me, this was just so crazy. She said, did you by any chance have a father that was physically absent or emotionally absent and most likely left your life around the age of 13, 14? And I just froze. For you guys that don't know, my dad passed away when I was 13 years old. And I was the one that found him. So it was a huge like traumatic thing for me. And I looked at her and I was like, how in the world did you know that? She was like, I was looking at your transits and I was going back at certain areas of your life because I saw this one placement in your Capricorn. And that usually means there's issues with the father and blah, blah, blah. But that's when I was like, this cannot, like, if she could see that in my chart, having not known that about me, because a lot of people don't know that, I said, there's no way this isn't real. And then, of course, my 1-3, which I learned, my 1-3 in human design said, well, now I have to go study the absolute mess out of this. And I did. I went down the rabbit hole and everything I found was spot on. And I started doing it for other people. And I was like, this is spot on. And my just really deep way of thinking just saw the pattern in this and the pattern in this and the pattern in this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love patterns. Let me just keep exploring. And then I became a believer. But again, I don't look at it as a very, woo-woo type thing. I do look at it more from a strategical lens because it is really cool to see the patterns. And even to the point where I've had clients where I've asked them like, hey, at this point in your life, like maybe right around your Saturn return or something, I look at the house their Saturn is in and I say, did something traumatic or something really big happen in this area of your life? Maybe if it's in the 7th house, did you have a divorce? Did, something like that? Because you can look at the patterns with the aspects of the planets. And it's been spot on for so many people. I've even seen in some charts, like, for example, one person had their Chiron in Aries in their 4th house, and it was conjunct a few other things. And I also use my intuition because I'm a very intuitive person. And for some reason, I was reading their chart and I just kept hearing the word abortion. And I was like, this feels really, this is like a hard topic to talk about. Maybe I like don't want to say it. But I basically, said, do you mind if I like ask you a very personal question? She was like, no, not at all. And I said, did you yourself have an abortion, or did your mom consider an abortion? Like, were you not really quote unquote wanted? Which I hate saying that, but she was like, oh my gosh, my mom got pregnant with a one night stand. And yes, she was going to have an abortion and she couldn't do it. Like, she went in and she could not do it. And the reason why I said that is because her Chiron is the wounded healer in her 4th house of family lineage. And it was in Aries, which is like the first sign of the zodiac. And it was conjunct a few other things I can't remember now. But basically it was like telling me her spirit was fighting to be on this earth. Like, she was like, no, I am here. Like, I'm going to be fighting. Like, I'm going to get this. And when I spoke with her, she was telling me as well that she basically felt like she had to take care of her mother. Like, she had to grow up super fast and also help take care of her mother because her mom was a single mom. And I could see that in her chart with, again, it being in that 4th house. So just all these patterns, I totally understand if you think this is all BS, but I promise you, if you really just let me read your chart, and maybe you won't, you won't think that anymore. But I totally get it. I understand. Everyone is super skeptical. Everyone thinks it's BS, but every single person who has thought it's BS and I have read their chart has become a believer. So much so that they like, friends of mine will text me and say, what's going on in the stars right now for me? Because my life is like miserable right now. And I'm like, oh, here you go. And you tell them that. So I've slowly become the weirdo astrology friend, but it's spot on and it's so true. And just even I use it as a tool in conjunction with my intuition, because I'm an emotional authority. So I really do feel things. I'm also clairtangent. So sometimes when I touch things, I can feel the emotion. And sometimes when I'm with someone one-on-one, I literally truly can feel their emotion. And it's almost like I'm touching their words. It sounds really weird, but it's like I'm touching their words and I can truly understand what are the subconscious patterns underneath, and also what is the energy that's being emitted. And then when I look at the chart, it's almost like I'm touching their chart. It feels really weird, but it's like I'm touching their chart and I can see different aspects that have happened in their life, and I see it within the patterns. It's super, super cool.
I I am living for this. Okay. Thank you for being you.
Of
Because
course.
as you were explaining that, I was like, "Oh my God, she is literally accessing the quantum field." And because she can read patterns, which is exactly how the universe is, right? Like,
Yeah.
codes and numbers are the language of the universe, and there's a specific reason why your soul chose to come to Earth side at a very specific time, and it's because there are flavors and characteristics and things you're meant to journey through, and you have this map. And I think part of the problem is that people don't know you're so much more than your sun sign.
Oh my
You're this
gosh, yes.
whole incredible breadth of a being with all of these different aspects. Like, you can't just
Yeah.
look at the Sunday paper and be like, what's my horoscope for today?
Mm-mm. Actually, I like tell people to ignore their sun sign, because people are so enamored and so fit in a box with their sun sign. And I'm like, there is so, 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 so much more. And every Capricorn sun is not going to be like every other Capricorn sun. I've met a lot of Capricorn suns that are absolutely nothing like me, because they have a different moon, they have a different Venus, they have a different rising, they have a different Uranus, they have a different Neptune. I mean, their house systems are completely different. They have different aspects, right? Like, their Saturn could be conjunct their Venus, and it's like they feel really hard expressing themselves, different things like that. It's so, so nuanced. And I think that's what it is about patterns, is that you do have to go nuanced with patterns. You have to go deep with patterns. So yeah, it's just really cool to see it. But yeah, you're so, 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 so much more than your sun sign. Sometimes I just want to be like, forget your sunshine. I actually will say, if you are reading horoscopes, read your rising sign
Mm.
over your sun sign, because the houses, your rising sign starts the house system. And in astrology, you have 12 houses, and each house represents a different area of your life. So it makes sense when they're like, hey, if you're a Capricorn sun, well, my Capricorn sun is in the fourth house. So, but if I'm reading Libra, it's talking about the aspects currently. So it'll kind of give me a better picture of what's going on in that house and where that planet is transiting through the house at that time.
Oh, that's so good. So everyone, read your rising. Enjoy that. It's going to be so
Yes, read
magical
your
for you.
rising.
I okay, so you know how you talked about in the chart that you could see certain things happening or that person pulled through when your father passed away? Can you
Yeah.
also see like love or like partnership?
Yes, you can. And me and Ashley talked a little bit about this when we were at the retreat. And it's funny because sometimes I'll pull up clients and maybe they'll be single and they're like, I really want to meet a spouse. I'm like, well, go here, do this. Like, this is where you can see it. So there's a couple things. First thing, you can look at your seventh house. So seventh house rules relationships and one-on-one partnerships. In a business context, if you are trying to figure out if you should work with a specific coach, look at your seventh house. And if that seventh house, let's say, for example, mine is an Aries, I tend to gravitate towards people who have Aries in their big three, or it could be like Aries in their third house, and I'm hiring them for content or messaging or something like that, right? Because your seventh house, the energy of your seventh house is someone who is the opposite of you, but in the best way possible. You'll still feel very relatable to them, but they have what you desire and you have what they desire. So it's like a match made in heaven. So when they say opposites attract, that is what they mean. It actually came from astrology. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it came from astrology. Your first house and your seventh house, opposites. They're opposites of each other. And all throughout astrology, let's say, for example, this is just to add something on there. Isn't that crazy? So just to add something on there, my moon is in the fifth house, okay, which is across from my 11th house. Now, my fifth house has my moon. Wherever your moon is in your chart, when your moon is happy, the rest of your chart is happy because your moons rule your emotions. We are emotional beings. We are literally here to feel our emotions in the 3D realm. So when I tap into my fifth house, my 11th house automatically gets activated. I start in the 11th house rules groups and communities. So I tend to find myself surrounded by groups of people who are like, oh my God, I love what you do, and blah, 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 whatever. It gets activated. And my 11th house is Leo, which is like, quote unquote, kind of the celebrity sign. So I tend to get almost put up as a celebrity. And you witnessed this, Ashley. I'm just literally going to say this. We were at the retreat, and how many people were like, you need Ashley, you need Ashley, you need to talk to Ashley about astrology, blah, blah, blah. It's because I was so in tune with my moon. I've been so in tune with my moon and my creativity and my, whatever. And my Venus is there. Venus is my chart ruler. And so sometimes when you dress like your Venus, you feel way more, alive, all that stuff. So I got recognized in those groups of people for things that make me emotionally happy, which also happens to be in Aquarius, which rules astrology, which is hilarious. All of you guys were asking me about astrology. You weren't asking me about content. You want to know about your astrology, right? So yeah, so seventh house, I went on a tangent there. Seventh house is the first place I would look. And it doesn't necessarily mean, for me being an Aries, it doesn't necessarily mean my person will be an Aries, right? It just means they're going to have Aries-like energy. And it could be, let's say, for example, if I were to get married and my husband, let's look at my seventh house of Aries, my husband could have Aries in the fourth house of family, right? Quite literally means we can get married in the family. So that's an easy way to look at it. The other thing I like to look at is your Jupiter sign. And this is really, really cool. So cool. Of course, when I married my husband, I had no idea about astrology, like really, truly no idea. But I got married I'm 34 now. I got married at 24. So 10 years ago. And that's when I thought astrology was the devil, but I had no idea. Now being in it, I'm like, oh my God, I see this. This is so, so crazy. So my Jupiter sign is in the ninth house of higher religion. Okay. So this is where religion falls. It's also higher education. It's spirituality. It also governs laws. So just think about those things. Okay. It's in the ninth house. Now, my husband's Jupiter is in the fifth house, in his fifth house. Okay. Fifth house rules creativity, fun, play, children, right? And when I mean, it also rules the arts. It rules music, painting, liberal arts. It literally rules the arts. Okay. My husband and I met at a church concert.
I have the chills.
We met at a church concert, and then I became his lawfully wedded wife. Literally, my ninth house rules, it rules loss. It also rules travel. Listen, this is even crazier. It also rules travel. And they say that if your Jupiter is in the ninth house, you tend to marry a foreigner. My husband is Mexican. Insane. Insane. Insane.
I can't.
Yeah. And his is in the fifth house of creativity. And we met at a literal freaking concert. We met at a concert.
Also, your three line comes through so deeply in the way that you talk about the religion and the spiritual and how you had to shift
Yeah.
and basically burn that to the ground in order to get to this next level of like truth. That's so
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
I was also
And it's
thinking,
not,
oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, you go ahead.
I was also thinking how perfect is it that you said the seven and the first house are like opposites attract because 7 + 1 is 8 and 8 is the infinity sign, right? So
Oh,
as above, so below. That makes so much sense.
I have never thought of it that way, but I got the chills. That is so
Oh,
cool. Yeah.
magical.
Magical. And it's funny because my husband doesn't have Aries in his big three, but and now I'm gonna have to go look at where Aries is in his chart. Now I'm gonna have to pull it up because I'm like, wait a minute, now I've done forgot. I have to see where Aries is for him. But sometimes, like I said, you can look at two different places. You can look in the seventh house and you can look at the Jupiter. I tend to find that Jupiter is way more on point, like spot on. But again, the seventh house also works. I find because I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of them with their seventh house energy doesn't really seem to be their spouse. It seems to be who they closely work with, like coaches or their clients, right? Because it does rule your clients in your chart. If we were working together on a business sense, I would look at your seventh house and I would have you speak to the energy of that seventh house because that is who you literally will draw in because you have what they want, but they also are like you help them with the aspects of your rising sign and they help you kind of see the aspects of their sign. It's really, really cool. It's like a beautiful, beautiful synastry. Let me look really quick where my husband's
Mhm.
Aries is because I'm cracking up. Oh my God, it's in the, no, it's not. It's not. It's in Sagittarius. Oh, his Aries is in the ninth house. Oh my God. So his
Of
Aries
course.
is in the ninth house. He was destined to meet me at church. He was destined. I was like, wait a minute, where is it? So yeah, it's in the ninth house of higher education and religion. So that just to even put a little bit more of a cherry on top, I could not have made that more perfect. I don't think I've ever looked at that and I'm like, oh wait, here it is. It's in the ninth house. So yeah,
Oh my gosh. Yes. I was
insanity.
I was gonna ask you, is Jupiter the planet of prosperity?
Jupiter is the planet of luck and abundance.
Okay.
Yeah. So prosperity, luck, abundance.
Is that where you could look at where Jupiter is in the house and then see like that would be a more effortless way of attracting abundance?
1000%.
Okay,
Yep. And so even if I'm looking at it from a business context, I look to where Jupiter is in your chart to see kind of like what topics or what area you could receive a lot of money from. So I'll give you a great example. Mine is in the ninth house of higher education. When I go deep, deep, deep. So this could also mean like college. It could quite literally mean professor too. Like I could have married a professor. But this is also what's so, so crazy is my husband is a Gemini sun.
mhm.
And his Gemini sun, the Gemini rules both sides, right? So does the Libra. They both rule duality. But Geminis tend to be very, 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 very intelligent because again, they have two sides, right? They're the two faces, they're the twins. And I realized that, my Jupiter, that was so spot on with him because he is the only person I feel like I can hold a very deep intellectual conversation with of all the people I've dated. Like I could go really, really deep with him and there's no judgment, but he also challenges the absolute shit out of me. Sometimes I'm like, just agree with what I'm saying, like don't like, but it's great because it's perfect. It's a perfect kind of balance for me because he makes me think deeper because he's like, someone else might ask you this question and they're not going to be as great about it. And I'm like, you're totally right, whatever. But yeah, it could be that with the relationships. But business wise, I look at where Jupiter is because it will bring in more ease of money, right? Like it's luck, it's money, it's wealth. So for me in the ninth house, speaking of higher education and religion and spirituality, when I started talking more about astrology and human design, and when I started talking about subconscious things, because it is higher education, it's like subconscious type thinking. It's not, the third house will rule like a grade school. So it's very basic level thinking versus the ninth is very high level thinking. It can show you, if you tap into those energies or those themes of that house and you talk about themes around that house, people actually become way more attracted to you. And that happened for me when I started talking about the subconscious and I started talking about astrology and human design. People came out of the woodwork. I mean, friends that like had followed me for years were all of a sudden interested in like, oh my gosh, do me. I really want to know. I just immediately started to become very lucky. And I started getting clients left and right from referrals. It was more of like people just were throwing my name out there because they're like, oh my gosh, I had this reading with her and it was amazing and blah, blah, blah. And she does it in such a unique way. So say, look at your Jupiter, wherever it's at in your house. But then I also will say too, whatever your chart ruler is, look at where that is in your house as well, because that can also indicate a little bit of basically like what you are really here to do. So for example, mine is Venus. Venus is in my fifth house of fun, self-expression, right? Self-expression. It also rules the arts. It rules singing. It rules creativity. It rules dancing, music, using your speaking. It rules your voice, right? In a creative way. In Aquarius.
Oh,
So here to quite literally do it differently. I couldn't make up my chart any better than what I'm doing right now. I'm so aligned with my chart. But my sun and my Mercury are in my third house of communication, of writing. And like this could be kind of back, if you're thinking about it on a marketing lines, it's back in writing. It could be like email, podcasting, different things like that. Versus if you looked at social media, that would be the 11th house, like your 11th house rules social media because it's groups and communities. But again, my Jupiter is in that ninth house of higher education. And it also, ninth house also rules publishing. So writing, that could quite literally mean I could write a book and be very, very prosperous, or it could mean like I tend to write a lot more than I do speak, but I still can speak. It's just using your words in different capacities. So look at your chart ruler,
how do you
whatever
find
house
that?
that chart ruler is, whatever your rising sign is,
Oh,
it is
okay.
the planet that rules your rising sign. So there are a couple that rule, there are modern day rulers and there are, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ancient?
Like ancient rulers. Yeah, maybe that's the word I'm looking for, ancient rulers. So look at both of them. There's some signs that have two. Like for example, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune.
Mm,
So look at where both of those are in your chart and you can kind of see the energies of whatever house they're in. So, let's say for example, you have Jupiter, you're a Pisces rising and Jupiter is in your fourth house. This could quite literally mean real estate. Like, because fourth house rules home. You could be very, very wealthy and very prosperous in real estate because Pisces, your Pisces rising, Jupiter is in your fourth house. You could say, oh, I could totally, totally,
yeah.
be very prosperous with that.
Oh my God, just dropping
Yeah.
gems. Oh,
Yeah.
oh my
It's
God.
it's a big puzzle. It's a
Yeah.
big puzzle that is unique. It's like everyone has a puzzle and everyone's puzzle is the same size, but there's just a different picture on the puzzle. Like all the pieces are the same cut and same shape. It's just the picture's totally different. And it's different for every single person. And so you
Mm,
can look and say, oh, what's this puzzle piece and this puzzle piece and this puzzle piece? It's really, really cool to see.
I love that. I also wanted to tell you that my Jupiter is in Cancer in the sixth house of daily work and wellness. And I was
Yes.
like, oh my God, loving and nurturing people through my work on a deep emotional level. Okay,
Yes.
that makes so
And
much
what's your
sense.
sixth house? What's your sixth house? What sign?
Cancer.
Cancer. Okay, so Cancer is the very motherly, like nurturing type energy as well. I will say this too, since it rules your daily habits, we can even go deeper in this. This also rules your health. So exercise, if you want to know what you did for exercise, you need to do something that is more flow. So this could be yoga or it could literally quite literally mean swimming. Like swimming probably would be very, very therapeutic for
Yeah.
you, but things that are in the flow because it's a water sign. My sixth house is Pisces. Pisces is also water. So I work way better with slower. I can't CrossFit, not for me. Absolutely not. It would hurt me. It's miserable. I did it in the past and I was miserable. But I go swimming quite often and I do a lot of yoga and I do Zumba too sometimes because Zumba is just a short amount, but it's fun. It's flowing, it's moving your body, right? So dancing is also another great thing. So you can look at your sixth house of your kind of workout
Yeah.
regimen. Yeah.
I'm like, it's so funny that you say that because I've done kettlebell for so many years, but yoga has been the thing, like,
Hmm.
and it's really called to me, and dancing and walking in nature and stuff. Oh my God, this is
Yes.
so fascinating. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well,
I
now
could talk about this stuff all day.
I also wanted to ask you, like, this is a big deal, but are we in the age of Aquarius or are we getting close?
Okay. So there's like conflicting views on this. Most people are saying we're in the age of Aquarius because Pluto, which is a generational planet, just transit or just moved into the sign of Aquarius. And so they're like, oh, it's the age of Aquarius. It's actually not the age of Aquarius, but it kind of is the age of Aquarius. And the reason why I say that is in astrology, they say like the actual age of Aquarius is when Pluto is in there, but there's also a couple other aspects will also be in Aquarius. That's the age of Aquarius. But we are in the Pluto age of Aquarius, is what I will say. And that's really, really great. And I know like Ashley asked me, like, can you talk about this on the podcast? I was like, yes, because it's a very fun and really transformational time. Just for a little backstory, Pluto has been in Capricorn for the past maybe 15 ish, a little more years. So, what that means is Pluto is quite literally the planet of transformation, death, and rebirth. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So that's why people say Scorpios are just so intense and they're always just like reinventing themselves and they're dark and they're associated with black and all those things. It's because they're ruled by Pluto. That is their ancient ruler. Their modern day ruler is Mars, just so you know. But that is something that when it was in Capricorn, you look at Pluto, the planet of transformation, death, rebirth, and then you look at the aspects of Capricorn. Capricorn is an earth sign. Capricorn also stands for hierarchical systems. I don't know if I said that word right, but whatever. It is all about structure, stability. Capricorn is the sea goat, right? It climbs the mountain, but it also goes to the depths of the ocean. So it wants details, it wants the nitty gritty. It's all about foundational things, but it's also kind of ego based where it's like, no, the best of the best of the best. I have to climb to the top of the mountain. I have to climb, quote unquote, the corporate ladder. Think about us. I'm 34. That period of my life with it being in Capricorn was when I'm in high school and you're literally told you need to get a good job, go to college, do the quote unquote steps, like follow those very methodical steps to get here, blah blah blah, right? And that's what a lot of us did, and we're just like, this is for the freaking birds. But even from a business standpoint, if you look at it from marketing, think about how marketing has been portrayed over the last 10, 15 years. I haven't been in the marketing space that as long as that, but if you think about it, just even maybe 3 years ago, everyone was talking about this is how I made 10K months. Follow the 5 steps to 10K months, right? Very much about money, materialistic. That is tends to be Capricorn. The negative side tends to be very materialistic. And it was all about flaunting the money that you made. It was all about here's how I did it and you can do it too, right? That is what a lot of the marketing, and I'll say this too, there were a lot of marketing gurus. A lot of people tend to put people on pedestals during the time of Pluto in Capricorn, because that was the energy as a collective, as the whole world, the consciousness collective, we were all in that type of energy. Now, which is so beautiful, I'm like, mwah, it has moved into Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is, first of all, innovator. If you were to imagine an Aquarius, they would be the ones holding protest signs out there fighting for humanity. They are a humanitarian sign. Capricorn is more of a like stern, me type sign. Aquarius is like, okay, that's great that you do that, but how the hell does that help the people type thing? Like, it's like you have all these resources, you need to be helping the people. Versus Capricorn really cares about stability and structure, so they'll tend to kind of hoard the resources. And you can see that, like if you literally look at our world, especially in the United States, that was the theme of the United States for the past 10 to 15 years. But now, I mean, everything is like going off the rails in the best way possible, right? So it's moved into Aquarius. It moved into Aquarius actually last year for a short little bit. And during that short little bit, I think it moved in March and then went back in August or September. I can't remember, right around that time. Even think back to your life. First of all, look at where Aquarius was in your chart and then look at the themes of that house. And what did you have a massive shift in that area last year.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you this too, as an entrepreneur, pretty much 2023 was the year of shit for entrepreneurs. I know so many people who their businesses sucked ass. They quit their businesses. They went back to a 9 to 5 because it literally was like breaking the system. It moved into Aquarius and it was like, wait, this is the future. And people didn't know how to handle it. So they're like, screw this shit. I'm going to go back to the Capricorn structure. Right? Because it's new and people don't like new. People don't like change. But Aquarius is all about change. And Aquarius is the innovator. It rules technology. So you saw a lot of AI stuff come out last year, especially even the negative sides of it, right? Because they're like the deep fake videos came out right during that time period. If you think about it, it literally all of the Aquarius themes started coming up, but it was a lot of the negative things because people don't want to move away from that, right? They're like, no, we don't want change. So they fought it. So last year was like just a really crappy, terrible year. And wherever Aquarius was in your chart is where you personally felt it. I felt it a huge transformation in my creativity. I basically took the whole year off of my business last year, starting in like April, May timeframe. I just stopped. I was like, I don't want to do my business anymore. I want to stop. And I went on this whole creative journey. I started reading The Artist's Way, which is literally like sitting right here on my desk. I did the Artist's Way book. I tapped into my creativity. I started doing pottery, which is even insane because pottery, I have an earth stellium and pottery is literal earth. I started playing with earth. I literally started going back to Capricorn themes and playing with earth, but I was experiencing it in a completely different way. So I want to say too, like, it wasn't like everything was shit. Like you just probably had a huge transformation. Could have been like really bad and negative, but also could have been very, very therapeutic and like almost like a breath of fresh air. And so last year, that's what it was for me. I actually unfollowed every single person that I had followed the year before. I stopped doing any mindset work. I was like, I am tired of healing. Like, are we done healing yet? Like, I don't want to heal anymore. So I took a break from healing. I started doing something creative in pottery. Again, Aquarius rules my fifth house. I started doing pottery and getting really creative. I started doing Zumba. I started taking Zumba classes. I took off all work and all communication. I just stopped talking to everybody and everything. And I really went inward. And it was even tougher for me because again, I have that Capricorn stellium. I have 5 planets in Capricorn. I have a ton of Capricorn energy. So it was a very push pull. My Capricorn wanted to be like, no, get out there and hustle and keep working and like do the things. But then my Aquarius was like, no, we need a break and we want to be in our feminine flow and we really want to like be creative and just enjoy the summer and go to the beach and like do all these things, right? And I ultimately let my Aquarius win because I know astrology and I'm like, this is really trying to teach me something. I feel like a completely different person since last year. And most of you guys probably do too. Anyone listening, but that is why, because the players moved to Aquarius. Now, let me go back to Pluto moving into Aquarius. And this is literally so literal. I can't even make this shit up. It's so literal. Okay. What you can expect now, marketing, you see a lot of the gurus, the big name gurus, are starting to get knocked down. Even look at celebrity life. Oprah got called out last year during the fires in Hawaii, right? She was asking people to donate when they're like, dude, you have all these billions of dollars. Why the hell are you asking us to donate? You donate. Like, we're all over here trying to afford housing. And, like, what's going on? You have the resources, right? So she kind of got knocked down on a pedestal, all of her pedestal. And you started seeing all these other celebrities starting to get called out. And now we have, this huge thing going on in Gaza. And all of these people are like, what the hell? What is going on? Like, why aren't you guys helping? Why aren't these big celebrities with these big platforms not saying anything? Because they're still stuck in that kind of Capricorn type thing of like, no, I'm at the top and like, I have to stay at the top. I have to wear a mask and I have to stay at the top type thing. But now with it being in Aquarius, you start to see it's almost like we the people for the people is starting to come back, right? The last time, let me tell you this. The last time, actually, no, I'm not even gonna say this first. I'm gonna tell the other side because it'll be more great. Okay. So this is an actual real life example that just happened. All right. TikTok. I love TikTok. I'm on TikTok all the time. I freaking love TikTok. TikTok is 1000% an Aquarius app to me. Everyone has freedom of speech on there. They talk about it, which is why the government probably wants to get rid of it because they understand like, hey, these people are actually communing together. They're coming together. They're thinking. And that is Aquarius. That is 100% Aquarius energy. And they can't control that. So, hey, they're like, we got to get rid of this. We have to debunk it. We have to knock it down, And if you think about it too, just within the last maybe year or two, mental health has really, really started to take a rise, like talking about mental health and making it more public. because again, it is a humanitarian sign. Aquarius is a humanitarian sign. And you also have probably seen a lot more esoteric or woo things like astrology and human design. I was literally talking to someone and they were like, yeah, we started learning about human design in the corporate. Like they made all of us take a human design chart in corporate. And I'm like, yes, this is amazing. 10 years ago, they would have been like, absolutely not. You're a witch. Get on somewhere. Right. So it's all starting to shift. But right now, what happened on TikTok was the Met Gala just
Yes.
happened. I care nothing about celebrities, but I am on TikTok, so I saw it. I don't even know what the Met Gala is. I just know it's a bunch of like crazy outfits, right? And a lot of people care about it. Well, this year it was based off a book. God, what is it name? Like The Giving Flower or like something like that. I'll have to go look it up. But basically, the story that the theme of this was based off a story. And the story is that these two socialites, two very wealthy people, were living in this mansion, and the peasants, as they called them, were going to attack them. And there was a flower, a tree with a flower. And when they picked the flower, it would slow down time. So these rich people were trying to pick the flower because they didn't want these peasants to attack them. And they would pick the flower and see the peasants moving really slowly, and they would just laugh. And like, haha, look at these peasants. They can't reach us, blah, blah, blah. But eventually they picked the last flower and the peasants reached them. And that is the story. That was the theme that this Met Gala was named after. So a lot of people online were actually even comparing it to the Hunger Games and the capital of the Hunger Games. Like side by side, they were like, this was a costume in the Hunger Games, and this was someone's outfit at the Met Gala. Like they're the same people. And if you think about it, in the Hunger Games, the capital ruled, over all the quote unquote districts, quote unquote peasants, right? And so there was this one girl, her name is Haley Bailey. I don't even know what she's famous for. I really, truly don't know. But she created a TikTok where she was dressed as Marie Antoinette. And it was literally her, and she goes, let them eat cake. And then it zooms out and she's like showing her Marie Antoinette outfit. So on the nose. Like really, truly, in what is happening in the world right now, you are going to go and use, first of all, dress up as Marie Antoinette. And second of all, say that when there are people, and like, I don't know if you know the history of Marie Antoinette, but she said, they say that she said, who knows, but they say that she said, let them eat cake, when they were saying that the peasants or like the other people couldn't even afford bread. They didn't have bread to eat. And she said, let them eat cake. So of course it's horrible, horrible. Now this is where it gets interesting. The last time that Pluto was in Aquarius was during the French Revolutionary War. Guess what kick-started the freaking French Revolutionary War? Marie Antoinette. I cannot make this stuff up. I'm telling you, if you do not think astrology is real and you don't think it has anything to do with patterns, I could not. I said, what? I literally chills. I was like, you are joking. And now, because she's done this, it has started a riot on TikTok called the blockout. They're calling it the blockout party. So they're telling you to go and block all of the celebrities. They're like, dude, we are the ones that gave them fame. We are the ones that gave them attention. We are the people. We need to be the people for the people, and go block them. Kim Kardashian, who I care nothing about, basically lost like 4 or 5 million followers in less than a day, because everyone is going, they're even blocking good old Taylor Swift. All of these things are coming to light. If you look at it right now, all of these high name celebrities are starting to fall because they're not actually using their voice and being there for humanity. And it is very much like, you look, you're at the top of this pyramid, right? You're at the top of the ladder. You're at the top of the mountain, Capricorn, but you're looking down and everybody else is trying to crawl up, and you're just like kicking them off. Or they're staying silent. They're not saying anything. But Pluto in Aquarius is going to shake that up. And if you think about it, look at all, and Aquarius is a very inclusive sign. It's for humanity. If you think about just within the past year, even last year, pronouns are becoming way more common, right? Being able to say like, hey, out of respect, these are my pronouns. What are your pronouns? And the LGBTQ community is actually starting to get support, because it is it's not the age of Aquarius, but Pluto it's the Pluto age of Aquarius, because all of these things are changing if you start to realize that. But there's been so much pushback, because with change comes a lot of pushback, because people are comfortable in their change. Good old Capricorn has been over there being like, I'm so wealthy and I'm enjoying my security and my stability. And then Pluto's going to Aquarius, and it's like, we're about to shake that up. Like everything that's bad, we're getting rid of it. Insane.
I
Ashley's just over there like,
My whole jaw is on the floor because I didn't realize this, but last year, everything in my business came to a halt. And all of a sudden, this job came out of nowhere. And now like I'm in a corporate role for now, but she's a Capricorn, my boss is. And it's like, so tricky to be an Aquarius in this system and seeing every single thing that is wrong with how we treat
Yes.
people. And I'm like, oh, this is why I'm here to remember what it's like to be in a system that needs to be dismantled. So just
Yes.
like, oh my God, that's so good.
And now's the time to do it, especially you're an Aquarius rising, correct?
Hmm.
Especially as an Aquarius rising, you physically, personally feel so attached to this. Like it is you. Like if like the fighting for other people and fighting for humanity and the good of humanity feels so tied to your identity versus me, it feels so tied to my emotions. Like it emotionally I'm emotionally invested in it. So much so, like I wrote a post about this the other day. Created my new program, Wild Words, and my theme is like daisies because it's wildflowers, right? Like wildflowers. But I also have a 70s vibe. And when you think of 70s, you think of protests, right? And so I also am like, hey, look, I want to protest against this. And a long time ago, I did a brand shoot where I was holding up signs, like cardboard signs, like I was at a protest. And I was like, oh, I want to write something on that sign, like, in Canva or whatever. I need a slogan. So I went to Pinterest and I literally typed in protest slogan marketing. And when I say I spent the next 45 minutes bawling my eyes out, sobbing at some of what these signs said of the examples, I'm like really not joking. I was not okay for the rest of the day. And I was so emotionally invested in it of like, I I read one in particular that just it oh my god, it was many, but one in particular said, "I walk now because someone walked before me. Someone walked for me before me," or something like that. And I was like, "Oh my god, that is the age that we're in. Like that is Aquarius right now because there have been people who have fought our ancestors have fought for the rights of women. Our ancestors have fought for these things, these equalities. And it doesn't have to just be women, but just in general. And it's our turn to keep that going. And I realized I was like, oh my God, those are my people. Like those are the people that I want to be around. Like those are the people who I know have a voice and they want to say it and they want to be disruptive and controversial, but like not an asshole, right? Like type thing. They really want to talk about what they want to say and what they're passionate about. And I literally was like, my people are who those signs were written for. Those are my people. And I mean, I sat there and sobbed. There was one, oh my God, one kid got me so hard. It was a little African American boy. He was probably 5 years old. And he held up a sign. He said, when do I turn from being cute to dangerous? I could not. My heart broke. My heart broke. And then one girl, there was like a 6-year-old that said, I should be running from friends while playing tag, not running from a gun. I couldn't. I just could not. And one said, I want to graduate by walking across the stage, not graduate by being in a body bag.
Mm.
I mean, when I say like bald, like bawled my eyes out. But I think this is the interesting part. While I'm so emotionally invested in that, you, on the other hand, it feels so, you take it a lot more personally than I take it. It's more like I'm here to fight with you and I'm here to fight and me is like I'm here to fight for you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. You're very much more of a like, all right, I'm here to fight with you. Like I feel you and I'm here like, okay, how can I fight for you? And that could totally include fighting with you, but it's more of like it's more of like how can I fight for you type thing.
Yeah, one of the things
Yeah.
that I always tell people is that like, especially clients, I can't believe I get to walk with you. I'm so honored to walk hand
Yes.
in hand with you. Also, I have to tell you, you know how when you heal, you can heal 40 generations back and all that, like through
Yes.
genetics. I did a genetics test and I am related to Marie Antoinette.
You are not
Yeah. I'm
insane.
like, oh, of course, like, of course I would be an Aquarius rising, especially with the Pluto where it is and everything. And I am totally in my core a humanitarian and I want to help uplift consciousness so that we're all better and we're all loving and
Yes.
thriving and abundant and everything. Like, damn. So thank you for that.
Yes. Just even more insane. Like, can we just even look at the synchronicity of this conversation with Marie Antoinette, the French Revolution? Pluto in Aquarius, you being an Aquarius rising, and literally a descendant
Yeah,
of Marie Antoinette, which is
that's
total. It's
wild.
insane. That is
Yeah,
insane.
thank you for
Oh
that.
my God, that cracks me up. It could not be more perfect. I literally cannot make this up, guys. Like
Oh my
this is
well,
insane.
and last night I watched this thing about the Count of Saint Germain, and he
Hmm.
actually went to talk to Marie Antoinette to say the people are going to have an uprising and it will be your head, basically. And she
Yeah.
didn't heed his warning. And in her diary, she said she wished she would have listened to him and to have
Yeah.
respected the people. Like, oh,
Yeah. I would love to know her birth chart. I wonder if it's like available. I bet it's available somewhere. I
right,
don't know if they'll know the exact time, but yeah, but that's, yeah, I mean, that's what started the French Revolutionary
right.
War, right? She
So,
did, but we're in a
for
great age.
yeah, it's such an honor
Hmm.
to be alive. I was going to ask you, I have two more questions for you. One is if you're in business and you're now thinking about how can I be more Aquarius in my marketing, what would you recommend?
First, I would look where Aquarius is in your chart. Because here's the thing, sometimes like houses 1 through 7 are at the bottom of your chart. So sometimes they say they're a little bit more behind the scenes versus if it's 8 through 12, I would even argue 8 through 11 because twelve is like the house of the hidden secrets. It's like the house of subconscious. So sometimes it could be a lot of like spiritual, like if people have a lot of planets there, sometimes they have prophetic dreams a lot. I see it's like behind the scenes, like kind of mystical stuff. But if it's, if it's in 8th through 11th, it could be more of an outward thing versus the 1st through the 7th could be more of like a behind the scenes. So you will have the pleasure of really showcasing your Aquarius energy with people that you work with or in a close setting versus someone who has it in the 10th house. It's going to be something like they're going to be the leaders in the going out and like they're the leaders of the protest type thing. So I would look at where it's at in your chart. And it doesn't mean like, for example, mine being in the 5th house, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be public about it. But what it means for me is I'm more individually working through self-expression with people. Like when they work with me, it's how can they self-express over like I self-express it myself, but I'm also here to help them self-express, which is also really cool because I have a defined G center in human design, which is all about, like helping people kind of access that energy. And I have consistent energy. So people see me and they kind of borrow my energy there. But then I have a undefined throat, that's not connected to my G center because I have no gates in my throat, which basically is saying like, I'm here to help you self-express through your words, right? Like it could literally quite mean through your words, but I'm also an emotional authority. So I also can help them express through their emotions by me working on my own emotions and me being able to emotionally be fulfilled self-expressing myself, right? So for me, it's not as public, but it also could even like this is where it gets super nuanced because it could say, let's say it's conjunct something. You have other planets in your Aquarius. For example, my 4th house has a stellium, and I have a couple planets there that when I've looked at astrology or I've had people read mine, they're like, you should kind of keep this aspect of your life private. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's not that I'm not doing the work. It's just, it's not very public for people to see. People who are close to me, friends, family, clients and stuff, they see it. But it's not, if you went to my Facebook, you probably wouldn't see some of those things on there. And again, too, it really just depends. It depends on where it's at in your chart, what house it's in. It depends on what planets are there and the energy or the theme of that planet. So again, mine's 5th house, self-expression. It being in your 1st house, that's how your personality, like it's literally, you're just going to be who you're going to be and people are going to be attracted to that. And you're also here to help people kind of see themselves in a different light. Like I'm here to help people express it. You're here to help them initially see it, right?
Mhm.
Because that's what you're doing. Like that's just who you are, and they kind of see that as well. But yeah, it just depends. It just depends on where it's at in your chart. I would just say whatever house it's in, look up the themes of that house. And those are the areas that you really can incorporate. Like if it's in your 7th house, it's going to be your one-to-one relationships.
Mm.
Quite literally could be your spouse or your friends or your clients. If it's in the eighth house, it could be other people's resources. So this could be meaning you're a connector, maybe you're a networker and you have people in really high places. It could literally be you going and like, hey, I'm going to start this charity. Will you sponsor it? Will you sponsor this? Because it's the eighth house rules other people's resources and access to other people's resources. It also could be doing it in a different way. Like it could be like, hey, you donate this or what? I mean, just something super creative because again, Aquarius is the innovator. It's the like the kind of the weirdo. Like I call it the black sheep of the zodiac, right? They're the weirdo, but they're the fun weirdo. Ninth house could literally be through religion or spirituality, right? Like going out and talking about certain things. I mean, it really just depends where it's at in your chart.
So if someone wanted to like deep dive and, really shift their business into more of the energetics of what's happening in their chart, can they work with you through that?
Yes. So I basically, the way to work with me right now, I do have I call it your astro messaging map. It's going to change to astro marketing map because I'm going to add in a few other things to it that's in the works. But basically we look at 5 different things. And in those 5 different things, I do look at, okay, what is going on currently in the world? And we look at transits. So for example, one of my clients right now is working on a group program. And she was like, we can see that in your chart. Just by the way, we can see if you are more in line to do one-on-one or if you're more in line to do group. And then I look at the transits with your chart of what are actually good times for you to launch this, sell this, whatever. And so I have one client right now who's putting together a masterclass. And I went through and was looking at her transits. And I was like, June 3rd is magic. I mean, everything is aligned. Like her natal Jupiter and the Jupiter in the sky at the moment is trine, which is a very good aspect. Then her Mercury is also trine the sun at that point, like means her speech is going to 100% shine. I mean, it could not have been more perfect, but we look at that and we also can look like maybe on that day she did have something square, like that could say like, okay, well, this could be the energy that could show up, but here's how we can kind of go against that energy or use that energy for good. For example, I was born during a Mercury retrograde. Most people during Mercury retrograde, it's like, oh my God, everything is going out. Nope, Mercury retrograde is my time to shine, baby. I have the best words. I am creating the best freaking content. And so I know that when it's going retrograde, I know, hey, this is actually a really, really, really good time for me to sell. This is a really, really good time for me to create a bunch of content in the back end. This is a really good time for me to record a bunch of podcasts. And when I'm telling you my like speech is fire during Mercury retrograde, it is fire. But I also understand when it's not during Mercury retrograde. Sometimes it can be a little confusing. So I will go back to a lot of my old content and rewrite it or rework it or, whatever. But to answer your question, yes, we do work on that. In the PDF, we go through 5 things. We go through your signature energy. So we look at your sun, your moon, your rising. We look at your chart ruler. We look at a few other things. Then we go through your voice vibe. And so I look at your astrology and your human design. So there are certain gates in your chart as well if you have an open throat or a defined throat. We also look at your astrology chart where your Mercury sign is. We look at your 3rd house. We look at your 11th house. We look at your 9th house. We look at everything that can have anything to do with writing, speaking, all that good stuff. So that's your voice vibe. Then we look at your offers. So we can look and see, we look at your 6th house and say, hey, because 6th house also rules what you offer to the world. And it's your daily routines. If you're an entrepreneur, it's what you do on the daily. So me and you both being water signs, heck no, we're not going to wake up and we're going to have the same freaking schedule every single day. Absolutely not. Our energy would be so zapped, even though I'm a generator. I want to say that because most people hear generators, they're like, oh, they're the doers. Absolutely not. Not with everything else in my chart, right? Me being that Pisces water, I am here to go with the flow. So much to the point, Ashley's like, yeah, so much to the point. This is so funny. I was telling someone this the other day. So much to the point that, like, if I had one call on my calendar, I can't start anything before it and I can't do anything after it because my whole day is gone, right? And I actually like, yeah, that is our water because we really truly value the flow. I also have ADHD. So when I am in the flow, it is very rare for me to be in the flow. And if you interrupt me in the flow, I am pissed, like mad, right? I will get so mad. So I know that, but I'm a generator. But everyone tells me, oh my God, you're here to do. No, I'm not here to do. No, I'm not. I'm here to create, but I need to create in the flow. I need to do in the flow, right? So we look at that. That's your offers. And then we look at your business vibe. Again, what is your business vibe? We look at your branding, your personal branding, and we look at, are you here to do a group offer? Are you here to do an individual offer? We look at your ideal client. Who are you here to actually speak to? And then I actually give you content themes to talk about. I give you the themes to talk about in your content that is specific to your ideal client and your Mercury placement, all that stuff. And then I just do a complete breakdown of your incarnation cross in human design. I also look at your north node, because your north node in astrology is what you're here to go towards. My north node is Aquarius. So the more I lean into Aquarius, the more whatever. It's like, and my south node is Leo. And they say in astrology, your south node is who you were in a past life. Now, Leo, the good attributes of Leo come very, very natural to me. But when I lean into those from an ego side, all hell breaks loose. Like, no, I get completely ignored. No one pays any attention to me. Then I get bitter and frustrated because I'm saying all these. It's very much, it gives very much like someone saying something and me being like, I have been talking about this for years and nobody has listened to me type thing. Or when they say it, all of a sudden now it's like a popular phrase, but I said that years ago type energy. I know Ashley's like, yes, yes, yes. That is very much the south node in Leo, right? So I look at your north node as well, because there's also different themes. You can look at your, like they call it your Achilles heel of your north node, what you tend to fall back on. But then also too, we can look at different aspects of your moon. Like your moon can even tell you what type of mother you had and what your mother actually valued in you, because the moon is the mother, it's ruled by Cancer, and Cancer is the motherly energy. But we do this whole big puzzle, right? Because I'm tired of people being like, oh, if you have your MC in Leo, you're here to be seen. And I'm like, not if you have all these other aspects coming towards it, type thing. So yes, to answer your question, that is how they can work with me, the PDF. I also just created a group coaching program called Wild Words. And the whole first phase of that, I'm taking you through what I'm calling my daisy method, because I'm obsessed with daisies, and it's a wildflower. I have a daisy tattoo on my arm. I'm obsessed. They're my God wink. Like I say that, like anytime something good is happening, my daisies show up. But the D stands for design. So not only am I going to teach you about your human design, but I'm also going to teach you how, in your astrology, I'm going to teach you how to do it. Like, how can you look at these certain things? And I'm going to break it down so simple inside of this program. Not that I'm not there to also answer questions and you say, hey, can you look at this for me, blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. I'm planning to do calls in there where you just jump on and we can jive on your chart, because it's my favorite thing to do. But I'm also going to do master classes and trainings in the back end for you to also be able to do that, as well as looking at the aspects of what's currently going on, because you really can kind of see patterns of certain things, and you can even see subconscious patterns. Like if you're looking at your Chiron placement, you can see a lot of different subconscious patterns that have been passed down through, because it's the wounded healer. It's what you're here to heal. Do you know what your Chiron is?
Wait, I do. Hold on. I was going to tell you it and I got so excited.
I'm really wondering. I'm
Um,
gonna laugh if it's in Aquarius.
it says Chiron is close to Jupiter.
Uh-huh.
Basically, that's all I have. Wait,
It doesn't tell you what sign.
let me check. Did I make
With
it?
it being conjunct your Jupiter, you are more lucky and abundant when you start working on Chiron and healing those dark sides of you.
Oh,
Chiron really shows your subconscious. It shows it shows a wound basically that you're born with. And it's a wound that you're literally here to, they say in astrology, it's the wound that you're here to heal. And if you don't, it just keeps passing along to the generation. And I'll tell you, mine's in Cancer, and which is also hilarious because it's conjunct my Jupiter, and it's called the mother wound, right? And when I look at my mother and her mother and her mother before and all of those things, it's very much a very dark energy. It's a lot of poverty. It's a lot of marrying just for security type thing, not marrying for love. It's a lot of women, just tend to be seen and not heard. And there's a lot of abuse that's happened in my family with women. And I'm here to heal that. And it's hilarious because my mom's Chiron is also in Cancer when I looked up her chart. And I'm like, so she's not healing it. Like, I'm here to heal that too. And what's also really cool is a lot of what I'm doing is also healing her, which is so parallel, which is crazy because she doesn't know any of this stuff. I'll even give you a great example, which just happened. My mom has always thought anything, psychic mediums, crystals, all of that stuff is just absolutely not like, and I had a psychic reading with, well, it was more of a mediumship reading with Tammy. And I connected with a lot of people, but it was so funny because every single person who came through for my mom. It wasn't for me. Like, it was so interesting, but it was for me because I knew it was going to be so healing for my mom. But my dad came through and he basically was like, I want you to tell your mom that I'm sorry I wasn't a great husband. One of my mom's friends came through. He was a family friend, but I wasn't close with him at all. He came through. My mom like really helped take care of him before he died. And he was just saying like basically that he taps on her window every morning. And my mom says that this red bird comes and basically taps on her window every morning. And that was him. I mean, it was nuts, like all of these things. And what Tammy was telling me that these people were saying, like even my grandmother came through and was basically talking, like, tell your mom. Yeah. And I never met my grandmother. I never met my mom's mom. And she came through and was just like, tell your mom I'm so proud of her. She's doing an amazing job. I mean, all these things. And there were bits and pieces in there that I wouldn't have known. Like I didn't know what any of them meant. But I got off the call and I called my mom, getting teary-eyed. I called my mom. And my mom, listen, my mom is like stone cold. I've seen my mom cry a total of maybe 2 times ever. And that was at my dad's funeral, but that was due to overwhelm. I don't think she was really sad. I think it was she was so overwhelmed with everything. And then another time was when my aunt died. That's it. I've never seen my mom cry ever since, like ever. And I cry all the freaking time. I'm like a big boohoo baby. But I get on the phone with my mom and my mom just starts sobbing, sobbing. And it was so therapeutic for her. And she would have never, ever, ever been open to anything like that had I not been the one to say that to her, had I not been the one that scheduled that call and had those things come through. And my grandmother even said that to Tammy, like, tell her that I'm very proud that she's actually stepping into this. Like she's stepping into, whatever. I'll even say too, when we were in Gabby's thing, when we were doing the drum circle, all I heard was you're remembering what your ancestors forgot. I heard that when we were doing it. You're remembering what your ancestors forgot. Because I do 1000% believe there's like some witches in my family. There has to be. And she's actually like, yeah, there has to be somewhere along the line. I'm too attracted to it
Yeah.
for it not to be. But I heard that. I
That
heard that.
I just want to tell you, thank you so much because you just clicked something into place for me that I've been trying to figure out for so long. Last week, I was working with my friend Christine to help refine my mediumship skills. And the way that I experience spirit is that I feel them, they touch me and I can hear,
Mhm.
right? I'm clairaudient primarily and clairvoyant, but the way that I know spirit is with me is because they touch my head and my crown. So before we started this podcast, I felt on the right side at the front of my head this male energy, but I didn't know that your dad had died. And I was like, oh.
Mm.
And then while you were talking about your mom, I was like, who is the energy that I feel in the middle part on the left side? And I was like, I wonder if that's her maternal grandmother. So you literally just showed me how spirit more like in a more refined way comes through for me. So, fuck,
Wow.
like, thank you so much for
That is
validating that for me.
awesome.
And now I know if it's your mom, if she ever goes to spirit, she'll be on the left at the front, of course, because it's the front, the closest to you.
That is so crazy. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. It was so funny because my dad came through during that reading, and it was because it was actually hilarious because he came in like 3 or 4 people after, and Tammy didn't know that my dad had died, and she was like, I'm like, is this your dad? I was like, yeah, my dad passed away, and she was laughing, and she was like, oh, I think she knew, but she had forgotten, and she was like, well, I was kind of a little irritated because he didn't come first, like, like why didn't he come first? And she said when he spoke up, she said he was like sitting in the back just quietly watching them. And then when she addressed him, he said, I couldn't get a word in when I was alive, and I can't get a word in while I'm dead either with these women. And I was like laughing so hard. I was like, that is my dad to a T. And I told my mom that, and my mom like cracked up laughing. And she was like, it was his lot in life to just be surrounded by women. And my dad was a Scorpio, which was so funny. Yeah. It was really cool looking. I don't know the exact time he was born, so I don't know his rising sign, but I was able to look like the date where things were. But yeah, he was a Scorpio sun, and my mom is an Aquarius sun, which is very interesting. But he's also a Capricorn moon. My dad was a Capricorn moon, which I'm a Capricorn stellium, and I was a daddy's girl through and through. But me and my mom butt heads. We butt heads a lot because for me, did not feel emotionally safe. My emotions were too big for her. And I can understand that with her being that Aquarius sun, she was here to like shine and be different. And like my emotions kind of like got in the way of that a little bit, which I get. Like I totally get it. I'm pretty sure she was a Taurus. I'm pretty sure she was a Taurus moon. I don't remember. I have to look at her chart again, but
Oh, I
it's
love it.
fascinating how it works.
Yeah, just
Fascinating.
energy and codes, man. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, I for sure am going to be linking the things that you had talked about for ways that people can work with you. And then
Yes.
I am going to be linking how you can connect with her. Where are you most active from a social media standpoint?
Facebook.
Great.
I really don't like to spend a ton of time on Facebook, but that's where I post the most. I'm also really active on my email list. I send out an email probably 2 to 3 times a week. Email, again, I have that third house. My Mercury and my sun is in my third house. So email and podcast. I have a podcast called the No Farting Around Show, which is about taking your marketing from the toilet to the bank. It's so fun. It's so my fifth house, like creativity, fun, whatever. But email is really dear to my heart. I love writing emails because it feels like just a very close connection with my people. And my emails are just, I'm going to toot my own horn. They are so, mwah, like they're so good. I don't know what it is about me writing to an email versus on Facebook. It just feels so much more intimate and real and raw with
Yeah.
it on email, which is probably why, I love it so much with my son and my Mercury in the third house. So,
Perfect. Okay, just so I
yeah.
can make sure to direct people because I know they're going to be like, I need to connect with her. Okay, I have
Yes.
my last and final question for you. If you would love to just like sit back a little, take a deep breath in,
Okay.
and I'd love for you to drop into your heart space and really expand in there. And once you're there, I'd love for you to give me a nod. Okay, I'd love to know what is alive in your heart today.
Mm. You know what the word came up for me was peace.
Mm.
Out of nowhere, which is so crazy, but peace, and not in a piece of like everything is fine and dandy. It's more of like a piece, a piece of knowing, like knowing peace through chaos, through anything. It feels like peace. That was so weird. I don't know why that came through immediately. It was peace.
Love that.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to
I
go like journal and explore that a little more.
please
But yeah, it
do.
wasn't like natural peace. It wasn't like, when you think of peaceful, you think of like quiet, and it was more giving peaceful type protest energy for me, like a peaceful like fighting. It felt more like peaceful protest almost type
I love
energy.
that. I was going to say it's really interesting because right now, where we are from a consciousness standpoint, and I know that you know this, but the whole theme right now is to come back to your core, your center, and finding peace in the chaos and being able to be in the eye of the storm and see everything for what it is. I was going to tell you this. Okay, when you were talking about your grandmother, I felt her touch my eyes, and I was like, Ashley sees differently. She can
Oh
see
yeah.
into the truth of everything, and that's why it's important for her to keep sharing about what she's seeing. And like you see everything for what it is, and without judgment in that way. And because you can pull patterns through, you can pull through these frequencies, it's just like this core vibration of truth. So thank
Mm,
you for what you do. I can't wait for more people to connect with you.
I love that. You know what's funny? The gate of mystery is in my head, and that is literally the energy of always wanting to get to the truth.
Mm.
And that's the thing about it, is truth, and that's the only gate I have in my head center. It's dead in the center, dead in the center. And I've studied, and I think it's gate one, maybe, or the gate of mystery. I think it's gate one, and it's part of it's like really big. I think it's actually in my Mercury sign or something. I have to go back and look, but it is, which is why I ask why all the time. But the thing about it is, I'm touching this right here because that's where it's at in the chart. It's getting to the truth, but it's the person's truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always, because truth is true because you believe it to be true. There really is no truth if you think about it. It's just true because you believe it to be true. And my goal is to, with anybody, is like, why are you believing that? Why is that true for you? Can this also be true? Or why is this the way that it is? Type thing. Like it's the gate of mystery. It's like this deep need to get down to the truth, which is just insane. I actually was just looking at that yesterday, that gate. I was just looking at that gate yesterday because I was reading, I have the Gene Keys book, and I was reading that in the Gene Keys. And actually, I'm going to look at it now. I forgot what it said. You can see my markers. Let me see. Pretty sure it's the gate of mystery. Oh yeah, because this is what fulfills my business. So you have different things in your gene keys. I don't really do a lot of gene keys, but it connects with the human design. But the gift is freshness and truth.
Mm.
Isn't that insane?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's what gene keys is a whole different ballgame. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole enough yet. It'll be there, but yeah, the gate of mystery, the gate of truth.
I love this. I love talking
Yes,
with you. I love your
me
wisdom.
too.
Thank you for taking us out to the cosmos and back down. This was a
Whoop, whoop.
journey. Yes. Okay. Thank
Yes,
you, Ashley. I can't wait to share this with everyone. Oh my God. Okay. I just wanted to say thank you. I love
you're
you.
so welcome. I love you
And
too. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone for listening. I
you
hope you
are such a
enjoyed
blessing.
it.
You're such a blessing, Ashley. Thank you. Oh, I hope that you have a beautiful day.